Good morning or good afternoon, and welcome to another computer science tutorial in which we're going to create a table in Microsoft Excel Online and also a graph or a chart for that table. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to Microsoft Office and then go to Excel. We're going to create a new blank workbook, and here we're going to start creating a table which will display the grades of 5 different students. So we're going to write down the names of 5 different students in the rows, and we're also going to write down the classes that they take so we can put their grades. Alright, so that's the first thing. We're going to put a column just for students, and then the names over here. Only 5 students, so I'm going to put Marco, Lindsay, Adriana, Jose, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's put one more on it. So now we're gonna say which classes do they take. Okay, so let's go ahead and put start with English, history or social studies, right? Spanish, computer, of course, math, and PE. Alright, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could add science right here, science, and we are good. Now we have all the classes that a student usually takes, right? So now we're gonna assign some grades to them. So Marco in English, he has an 85, for example. We're going ahead and gonna write down all those grades. I am gonna skip over to after I write them, and here we are. So now we have all the information that we need, all the columns, right? English, history, students, English, history, Spanish, computer, math, PE, and science, and all the rows, like the one for the titles of the columns, and then the one for Marco and his grades for each class, Lindsay, Adriana, Jose, and Angel. So now, what are we going to do with this table? We can go ahead and format it, put it a little pretty. We could just go like this, applying borders and style. You remember that whenever we want to change the borders for any cell, we just have to select those cells like this, and then go over to borders on the top, and then choose which border we would like to add. We can change the border style right here, and once we do that, after we choose the border style, then we say, okay, how do we apply it? Just the top bar border, just the top and bottom. So in this case, I want to apply border for all the lines there, and a thick line or a double line for the outer edges, just to make it look good. There we go. You see? Now you can choose whichever you prefer for the lines. All right, as long as it's something that helps you understand what you're doing and what is being displayed, we're all good. Now we also need to find the average to determine the grade of each student. So we go over here, we're going to add the average. Average. Ta-da. The average is the sum of all the numbers and then the division of that result by the total of numbers being added. So here we have 85, 15, 90, 92, 85, 93, and 89. If I add all those numbers by using equations here in Excel, over here, sum, I already have them selected. Those are the ones that I want. I have 549. And if I divide that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, which is the amount of grades that I have, that Marco has, 7, that would give us the average. We could do this, write down a slash, and then put the number 7, and that would give us the average. So Marco has an average of 78.42%, right? That's his grade. There's another shortcut. There's a shorter way of doing this without thinking too much. So we already know how the average works, but Excel has a function just for it. It does the whole calculation. We just have to give it the grades, and we are good to go. So let's say average right here, and then make sure that all the grades that you want there are selected, like this. If anything, you can just click whichever grades that you want, right? We want all of Marco's grades, so that's the ones that I select. And I press enter, and you see, it gave me the same number. All I did was go select the cell where I want the result, go over here to the functions, and find average, and then select which grades I want to find the average of. Alright, so now I'm going to do that the same thing for the rest of the students. Alright guys, so there's one thing. Usually when you look at a grade, it doesn't look like this. It doesn't look like a whole lot of decimal numbers. This one is it's a perfect 94.000. That's why you only see the 94. So we want it in a percentage because this is a percentage. The average is a percentage of the grade, right? So we're gonna select all those numbers that we want as a percentage, and we're gonna go over here to the top and click on percentage. And now look at that. There's something weird here. Why does it look like 7,842? Well, that's simply because once you have a whole number and then you convert it into a percentage by clicking here, it will look like this. So all you would have to do is divide by 100. How can we do that? Well, simply clicking on those cells that we want, right? And right here we have the formula. We can double click on the cell if we want and find the formula right there, or we could just look over here on this formula bar or the function bar, right? And in the end of the function, right after the parenthesis of the average, we divide it by 100. So why by 100? So whenever you have a whole number, you have a point in the end, even if there's no visual point, right? You have 1, that's actually 1.0. So if you move the dot 2 spaces before it, like this, 0.01 is the same thing as 1%. You see? So that's why we divide by 100. That's to move the point, the dot, 2 spaces to the left to convert it into a percentage, like this. Let's do the same thing over with all of the other numbers. I'm going to do it once more over here with the top one. Just going to choose at the end of the equation, divide it by 100, and press enter, and we are good over here. That's so we can get the percentage. Now, if I want to transfer the same information right here, so I'm going to grab it by the right corner on the bottom and then drag it down. What this does, if you notice, is that it applies the same format. So we need to find the average of these cells divided by 100, right? So we're transferring that same format, that same equation, to all of the other cells that we selected when we were covering it like this. Now, the thing that you would notice is that it changes automatically to what it should, depending on the student, depending on the row. So in this one, it's only calculating the ones for Marco. And in this one, it's only calculating the ones for Lindsay. That is because, if you notice in the equation, B2 to H2 is the same thing right here. B2 would be 85, to H2 would be 89. And then when we put it down, when we transfer it down, when we copy that same format, it says B3 to H3. It automatically recognizes that what you want to do is not copy the same values, but just the same format and apply it to the new values like this, right? So Excel is pretty smart. When we use it like this, we are taking advantage of how the programmers went ahead and made our lives a lot easier with that, okay? So we don't have to write it down every single time manually. Now let's also find the highest grade, highest and lowest. And we're going to do that for every student and for every class as well. Who got the highest score in English, who got the highest score in history, and who got the lowest. So highest and lowest, like this. Alright? Now, to find that, all we need to do, go ahead and put highest, and all you need to do is go to the same place that you found average, right here on this little arrow, and you're going to max. Max is the function that gives you the maximum number from the field that you choose, all the cells that you choose. So we choose max, and you see that already we have selected the ones that we wanted. We can select from the whole table which one is the highest one, but I just want from one column of English. That's it. That's the number that's going to be displayed here because I selected this one before, right? So let's try lowest. Where do I want to see the lowest number for English? Right under it, right here. So I select that cell, I go over here, and I put min as in minimum. Click, and we're good to go. And now, go ahead, try that, pause the video, and do it for every student by selecting the whole row, and for every class by selecting the whole column. Alright? Okay, go ahead. Alright, good job. So now, what we have to do is make sure that it looks a little bit better so we can understand it a little bit more. So let's make the other things that are outside the table that we designed, let's make it part of it, alright? So personalize it, use borders, shadings, and all that. Remember that shadings, like this, I'm going to put a color to the names of the columns. And I'm going to put it right here in the bucket. This bucket, I just click here, and I can put any color that I want. I'm going to put it in light yellow. Remember that the color should not overlap the font. So you should be able to read no matter what color you put behind it. But let's say I put like a very dark brown. Oh wait, I changed the font instead of the, hold on. Aha, a very dark brown right here as a background. Is that easy to read? No, it is not. If I wanted a dark color like that, I can change the font color to white, for example, or to an opposite color. Of course, that makes it a little bit more, how do you say, not comfortable as you would like, but still, you have the freedom to do that. Just design it in a way that it's understandable, paint it, put borders, and go ahead, pause the video, go ahead and do that, put it in your own style, and then we'll continue with the graphs. So here we have it. It's all good. We have the whole table. It's all neat, designed. It's understandable. We know which one is the important part, which is this one. We also can identify what everything is for. Now, you can also center it by aligning it, just like we talked about in the video conference, like this. Going over here to the middle, selecting what you want to center. Go over here to the middle on top where it says alignment. You can go ahead and click on that, and there we go. See, it looks a little bit more organized, more neat. You could do that for the whole thing. Boom, boom. Put it in the center, and then the same thing over here. You see? It looks very nice and tidy. Alright. Now, we want to create a graph. We want to create a graph of this part. How every student is doing in each class. Represent it in a visual way so we can understand more clearly. So we don't have to go ahead and look, okay, who's doing better overall? Right now we can look at the average to tell us that. Or see who has the highest grade in Spanish for highest grade, and then over here it says 100 Adriana, that's her highest grade is in Spanish. And the same thing over here, we can see who has the highest grade over here, apparently her in Spanish as well. So this is the thing, there's an easier way to identify who's doing good and compared to the other students as well. So let's go ahead and select all the cells that we want to see in a graph like this, which is only from students all the way to the last grade right here. And we're going to go to insert in the tab section right here on top. And then if we create a pie, it's not going to look very understandable. We're not going to notice this difference. See, It's like white. Okay, so here we have Marco in blue, we have Lindsay in orange, and there's no apparent difference there. So that's not working for us. So what we need would be, I already have this selected, would be something like this. Yes, something like bars. And here we go. That's it. Ta-da! And now it's telling us Marco has, this are his grades in all the different classes, you see? But it's easier to understand than plain numbers, but it would be way easier if I would have the class and the people with colors, right? To see just who stands out more. I don't want to see in what class he or she stands out more. I want to see who right now is doing better. So this is good if you want to check what each student is better, in what class each student is better at, okay? So we want to check who's doing better right now. So let's go ahead and switch the rows and the columns. Right here we have, it's identifying the row. So Marco has all these grades and English has all these grades, right? So Marco in English is blue, Marco in history is orange, which would be 15. You see that? That's a very low score. Spanish, and all that. Okay, so now we're gonna switch that around and have the students with colors and the sections be of only the classes. Let's go ahead and go to chart tools or chart design or stuff like that. It might have a different name. You have to make sure to have the graph selected in order for this section to appear. Chart tools, chart design, or chart. And then we're gonna click on switch row / column. And look at that. Look at how that happened. English, history, Spanish, and now we can see, okay, so Marco has here, the highest score in English would be Adriana right here, bum bum. The highest score in history would be, also Adriana, the same thing over here, so she's an excellent student. So we have that, perfect, alright. That's one way to do the graph. And it's very understandable, the same numbers that we have over here, we have it here. And what can we do with a graph? We can do different things. We can, the legend is very important. We can put the legend on the right here. If we click on the graph and we go to the chart designs or chart tools or chart, we're gonna find all these options right here. We can add a title, chart title, centered overlay title. That means above right here. Let's put above, and let's give it a title, student grades, like that, and press OK. And this is what we have, student grades. You see, it's even more understandable now, now that we know that we're looking at the grades. Let's move the legend to the right side because it looks a little bit better. So let's go over, click on legend, and show legend at right. We could have it at any other place if we wanted to, but let's put it on the right. And we could even turn it off, but that would make things hard. So there we go. That's kind of more comfortable, at least for me, right? And we have the titles. Where do we want them? You see? Right now, let's leave the titles, which would be the grades right here, or the classes down below. Let's leave them as they are. In data labels, this is one way to show the numbers inside these bars. So let's go ahead and click on data labels, and let's put outside end. We're going to display the data labels, the information, that would be each score, on top, in the end, on top of every single bar. So let's put that. You see? So that might be hard if it's big numbers. So what you could do would be like put it inside it and stuff like that. You see? If you wanted to. So now, I'm just going to remove that to make it easier to read, because sometimes the numbers might just be confusing. So also, we can, here on data table, we can show the data table below it, right here, and it gives us all the information that is already displayed here. This is good for when you're using another worksheet. When you're, instead of doing it in sheet 1, you're doing it in a separate sheet right here. So that's why it's good. And then you would have all the display of the information over there. Now let's remove that. And basically that would be it. That would be basically everything that you need to do for this assignment. Remember to go over here, click outside the chart, and go over here and save your document. How are you going to save it? Table and graph. And then you're going to submit it through Teams. Alright, go to Teams, go to the assignment, add work, select this file, remember to name it so you can find it, and then just submit it. Alright, thank you very much for your attention. I hope this video was helpful for you to complete the assignment. I hope you're learning new things every time, so you keep growing. Thank you and have a nice week.